All right, so I am in the parking lot at the gym. It opens up in about 3 minutes. But this video is inspired by last week's video where I talked about how, working in an office and the commute, how that's affecting, me continuing to live this healthy lifestyle that I've lived for 6 years now. And it got me to thinking about, well, what other things, why couldn't I lose weight before? Why couldn't I have, been on this, done this journey successfully before the pandemic and the whole lockdown? And I just started thinking about how, well, one thing, my mindset wasn't there, but also dealing with some toxic relationships, and not just, a significant other, but a job as well. And let me see, what time is it? Because y'all know I got to get to my machine. I got to be the first one on my machine. So I'm going to get back to it. We're going to get back to it. But the toxic relationship, um, significant other, as well as a job. I'm going to tell y'all the story. Now, before I get into this video, I just want to show off my little outfit of the day. It is Saturday, March 7th, and this is what I wore to run some errands today. Who says that women over 50 have to look like grandmas? Oh, yes, and I am shaking my hair because I got my locks done. My locks retied last Saturday. So I was definitely feeling myself, as you can see. Yes, Gen X, let's bring it. Okay, in the beginning, I mentioned how toxic relationships can keep you from reaching your weight loss goal. And you know what? And not just weight loss goal, but basically any goal that you have. And the reason why is when you have a goal, you have to put your energy into that goal. And energy requires work. Now, when you're in a toxic relationship, whether it be with a significant other or a friend, family, or a job, guess what? It uses up your energy, and you don't have the physical or mental energy to put effort into achieving your goal. And I just realized this, just thinking about, all the times that I have started and stopped and, never reached my goal until I was living in my bubble during the pandemic. And I did a video about that, last week's video. Dang it, I can't even remember the title, but I will put the little thing up here so you guys can check it out. But I was living in a bubble and I was not dealing with people. I was not in a relationship. I was, working home, basically, almost like being self-employed. Even though I did have to report to a supervisor, I had a lot of autonomy. So it got me to thinking, could I have achieved my weight loss healthy goal back when I was in this one particularly toxic, very toxic relationship? But before I talk about the relationship, because I also thought about this particular job that I had back in 2005. So in 2005, and I'll try to find a picture of where I had lost. In 2004, I had lost a lot of weight. I don't know how much weight I had lost. And I started this job, and that office was so freaking toxic. Like the people there, they were fighting amongst themselves because they wanted to be promoted. And you would think, because they wanted to be promoted, that any new person that arrived to the office, that started working at the office, you would think that they would try to mentor the new person to show that they deserve to be promoted. No, I started with two other folks, and the old timers, I'll call them the old timers, completely and utterly ignored us. Put us out there, they put us out there in that environment, and we had absolutely no idea what we were doing. It was like feeding us to the sharks because we were dealing, unfortunately, I most of my jobs have been dealing with the public. It has made me know how to deal with folks. But when you're dealing with people and their money, especially when these people are not, well, anyway, when you're dealing with people and their money and with people who don't know how to really communicate effectively, that can be a stressful situation because you really have to sometimes handle them with kid gloves and you have to explain things. Anyway, the job was toxic. And I remember I had this particular case and I went to this lady and she did not want to help me. And during that time, I think I may have gained like 30 pounds within 3 months, so about 10 pounds per month, because I was so stressed. My eye twitched. I don't even know how long my eye was twitching. And it was just such a toxic environment. And so I think about that and how I gained so much weight so quickly. And I stayed at that job for a very long time. And I learned a lot. But during the time that I was in that office, I eventually did get back on track. Uh, but not really because I wanted to do a bodybuilding show and I had hired a coach, another coach. But this particular coach was definitely into the bro culture. So I had like zero fats. I don't even know how much protein this lady had me eating, and carbs were quite low. And so I was even working in that toxic environment. I was able to lose weight, but it wasn't in a very healthy way. And I did it for a bodybuilding show. I'll look for a picture, post the picture of the very first bodybuilding show that I did, and I'll compare it to the last the last bodybuilding show that I did. You will see the difference in how lean I became. But yeah, so when you're dealing with toxic situations, um, you just don't have the energy. Your body is just, you know, focused on trying to make it through whatever toxic situation that is. And unfortunately, during that time period, and so I did that bodybuilding show in 2012, I think 2012. Yeah, okay. So by then, I was no longer in the toxic relationship. Lord, you know, when we think about our younger years, some of us, because some of y'all don't take crap at any age. And I admire you guys for that. But when I think about what I went through with that particular relationship and how it hindered me, you know, in reaching my goal, I feel bad for that younger version of me. And when you are dealing with someone, and like I said, it doesn't have to be a significant other, it could be a sibling, parent, coworker, friends. When you're dealing with people who are manipulative, narcissistic, all of the above, and you are trying to put all your effort into making that relationship work, you don't have the bandwidth to focus on yourself and to focus on your health. And that is when that can also cause you to not be able to reach your weight loss goal. So, what does that look like? What does it look like to not be able to, because you're in this toxic situation that you can't really put your energy into yourself? Well, you're walking around on eggshell. You feel dismissed. You don't feel heard. You feel criticized. You are feeling all of the bad feelings. And so is saying, your body is thinking it's in danger. And the reason why it's thinking that, because your brain actually knows what's happening. And if your body feels like it's in danger, it is going to do everything it can to protect itself. And part of protecting itself, believe it or not, is holding on to some weight. Because as far as the body is concerned, it doesn't know if there's going to be a famine. So the more weight you have on your body, the more you're going to be able to withstand this famine. Now, you consciously know that you are not starving yourself, but the body may not know that. So it's going to hold on to every single little fat cell that it can hold on, because that toxic relationship is telling the body that it is in danger. Now, how do we get in shape? How do we make our lives easier? How do we, easier so that we can get healthier? Well, getting healthier requires planning. And so planning, you're planning your meals. You're planning your training, your workout. You're planning your sleep schedule, believe it or not. If your body is feeling exhausted because of the conflict that's going on, or the passive aggressive behavior you're experiencing from other people, it becomes exhausting. So if you work in a toxic environment, you're exhausted. You're there 8, 9, 10 hours a day. By the time you get home, what do you want to do? Absolutely nothing, because you got to recover from the next day. Let's say work is good. You love your job, but the environment at home is toxic. You don't want to go home. Home is not a peaceful place. Home causes you stress. Guess what? Even though going to the gym may give you some, a little bit of reprieve from being home in the toxic environment, you're not going to be as focused as you should be. Also, you can't be in the gym, you know, from the time you get off work until it's time to go to bed. Eventually, you have to go home. If you're dealing with a toxic family member, and fortunately, I have no experience with dealing with toxic family members, but you know, you're trying to figure out ways to deal with these people. Maybe you're not in that situation anymore. I hope not. um, so instead of you focusing on yourself and getting you becoming healthier by focusing on yourself, you're busy focusing on trying to make that toxic person happier, or maybe not happier, but just not as toxic, giving into their demands, whatever that may be. So, because you are dealing with all of this negative energy around you, you start to do things that are easy. And a perfect example, when I was working in that toxic environment, I would go to, after work, I would go to IHOP. I'll never forget. This is 2005. So we're talking, what, 21 years? After work, I would go to IHOP and I would order some kind of steak. I forget what the name of it was, but it was a steak omelet. I can't even imagine how much fat was in that omelet. How many calories, the amount of calories that was probably in that omelet was probably half more, probably like 75% of the calories that I needed for the day. And that was my way of calming down my nervous uh, system. It was comforting. I was finding comfort in that food. And that's what happens. So, because you're already on edge, you're going to do things that are easy. And it's easy, especially here in the United States. It is easy to go to, I don't know, the Krispy Kreme, the Crumble, what other place? I don't know if people are still going to McDonald's and Burger King. Um, but even some of the more healthier places, depending on what you order, it's not the greatest thing to be eating. So you want to do things that are easy. And going to the gym is not always easy. I know some of you, when you get home, you sit in your car for how long before you go into the house? You go to the fast food place and you get your food and you sit in your car and you eat that food before you walk into the house. Now, I'm not talking about parents who are trying to, who want to enjoy their food by themselves instead of having to share it with their kids. That I am not talking about. I am talking about you finding comfort in what is easy. And what is easy is picking up some food, sitting in your car and eating it instead of going in the house, having to deal with that toxic behavior, and plan your healthy meals. Or after having spent 8, 9, 10 hours in that toxic office, going home and or going to the gym after work or before work, or again planning those meals is not easy. It is. You have exerted so much energy dealing with the toxicity that, yeah, you don't want to do anything that's going to require some work. Now, when you embark on your healthy lifestyle, part of that is working out and training. And working out and lifting weights is stress on the body. It's a good stress. However, it is still stress on the body. You may enjoy it, but the next day your muscles are probably sore. When you're doing the actual lifting, you're exerting a lot of energy and it can make you tired. And it takes effort to eat healthy or to eat healthier. Some people grew up eating a lot of fast food, a lot of frozen dinners, um, just, not the healthiest. So it requires energy to plan out your meals and make sure that what you're eating is conducive to your goals. And because eating healthier requires planning, because exercising is a stress on your body, you are still looking for some relief. And the thing that you're going to do what's easiest to bring that relief. And what is the easiest way to bring, to have some relief? It's to stop the healthier eating. It's to stop the exercising and lifting weights. And so you stay at the weight that you are, or you end up gaining a lot of weight. So I am not telling you to leave your relationship. I'm not telling you to do that. I am not telling you to quit your job. If you are here in the United States, today is March 7th. The jobs numbers came out yesterday, and we have lost 92,000 jobs. So the job market is not looking so hot right now. So what can you do? What can you do to minimize the toxicity that you may be experiencing that is preventing you from reaching your goal weight? Well, you have to set some boundaries. And let me tell you what happened to me at this new job. So, like I said, I deal with the public. This, from last week's video, I work with the public, and the interviews are back to back to back to back. One of the supervisors, She kept walking by my office. Walking, and I'm like, why is she walking by my office? You see these people sitting in my office. So sit down. You can look on the system and see that I have an interview. Why are you leaving your office and coming to mine? So that was kind of bothering me. And I don't know if it happened this day or when it actually happened, but when we go to lunch, we have to send a supervisor a little message, Teams message that we're going to lunch, whoever is the supervisor of the day. So I send her a message. I am going to lunch. Team says she has read the message. I go to lunch. 30 minutes now. I come back and she sends me a Teams message. Why didn't you tell me you were going to lunch? This person has been waiting for such and such a amount of time and I had to give it to someone else. Now, that is how I interpret it. And you know what? And I interpret it correctly because she sent an email to my supervisor CCing me with the policy on how we're supposed to notify the supervisor that we're going to lunch. I was angry. For the first time in my life, my ears were burning. That's how angry I was. And as you can see, I'm getting angry all over again thinking about it. So anyway, I responded to that email with a screenshot of me telling her I was going to lunch. And it showed that she read it, at what time she read it. I sent that screenshot in the reply, and I responded, from here on out, when I communicate with you, I will be CCing my supervisor. So she and my supervisor saw that email. And you know what that was? That was setting boundaries because I refuse to have anyone, especially after the mess that I have been through in 2025, I refuse to let anyone at any job make my life a living hell. As you can see, I am still upset about that. Anyway, yes, you have to set boundaries. You cannot see, this is older Lisa. I don't know how younger Lisa would have handled it. But older Lisa that will be 55 in October, is not dealing with the mess. No, no. So you got to set your boundaries. You have to create, if the toxicity is coming from home, you have to find some way to make more peace. You have to find a way for self-protection. If you don't do those things, you're going to be stuck. And if you're one of those people, well, if you're watching my video about weight loss, then you're not one of those people who, when you're stressed, you don't eat. I wish I was one of those people who, when you're stressed, you don't eat. But you're gonna have to set boundaries, find peace, and find a way for self-protection. And how can you do that? Well, I just gave an example of setting boundaries. So how do you make more peace? That is, whew, for me, making more peace really is just withdrawing from the situation. And I know that, like I said, I'm not telling anybody what to do with their relationships. But if it's a family member, you can easily withdraw from that person to find your peace. Self-protection, and I'm not talking about anything physical, just protecting your peace, your self-protection, because stress is a killer. Stress will make your blood pressure go up. Stress will it will cause you to become ill. It will suppress your immune system. So the self-protection, basically is extracting yourself from that situation. So you have to decide, how much of this am I going to put up with? And what am I going to do so that I can live a healthier lifestyle? so that when I am older, I am able to play with my grandchildren or great grandchildren. I can walk up the stairs. I can bring in the bag of groceries from the grocery store. I can get up from a chair like an able bodied person. That is what you have to decide. Once you get rid of the toxicity, or once you find a way to deal with it, because I found a way to deal with the toxicity at the job that I had that was so toxic. And eventually I got out of that relationship. And I don't know, did I go into detail about the relationship? Man, that thing there, there were days when I would not go to the gym because I was just so down and out. I don't know if and I can't remember whether or not I would eat my feelings or not. I don't know if I really ate my feelings, but I do know that there were days, and then another reason why I would not go to the gym is because we went to the same gym. If you can help it, don't date anyone that goes to your gym because that is like school, okay? If things don't go right, then you still have to see that person at the gym. So, anyway, that is it for today. If you have found yourself in a situation like that and you've gotten out of that situation, comment below. And thank you for watching me ramble again and not making any sense.